According to a bombshell expose by BuzzFeed, former Ellen employees say that the mantra of the Ellen Show, "Be kind," is a facade for a toxic work culture. These disgruntled employees say that the Ellen DeGeneres brand is essentially all for show. I got the tea, and I'm gonna spill it here for you on IO. What's gravy, fam? This is IO. I'm Charlotte. Like, subscribe, follow, potato. Let's get into the news. Before I go any further, I just want to give full credit to BuzzFeed News reporter Christy Lee Yandoli, who broke this story, and let me tell you, it is a doozy. BuzzFeed talked to 10 former employees and one current employee of the Ellen DeGeneres Show, all of whom asked to remain anonymous because they are afraid of the consequences of speaking out against Ellen. And not only that, NBC as well. All of these employees and their stories were backed up by the other employees who corroborated the claims. I would also like to state that not all of these experiences working for the Ellen DeGeneres Show directly relate to Ellen herself, but the employees say that because it is her show with her name on it, she should take more responsibility for what happens behind the scenes to her employees. In recent months, Ellen DeGeneres has come under scrutiny. She was exposed earlier in 2020 by comedian Kevin T. Porter, who said that she was notoriously one of the meanest people in Hollywood. A former bodyguard then came forward with a negative experience with Ellen, and other staffers openly criticized the show after getting pay cuts due to the pandemic, and also the show chose to hire a non-union team to work on the home version of the show instead of hiring the staff that had worked with Ellen for years. And now it seems that former employees are feeling emboldened to come forward to talk about the Ellen DeGeneres Show's toxic environment. Apparently, if you work for the Ellen DeGeneres Show, you can get fired after taking medical leave or taking a day off to attend a family funeral. Employee number 1, who worked for the show for over a year, had to take a month off to check into a medical facility because of a suicide attempt. When they returned to work, they were told that their position was no longer needed. They said, "You'd think that if someone just tried to kill themselves, you don't want to add any more stress to their lives." The employee, whose story was corroborated by 4 other employees and medical records, told BuzzFeed News. Some of the producers talk openly in public about addiction and mental health awareness, but they're the reason there's the stigma, they said. They definitely don't practice what they preach with the "be kind" mantra. Employee number 2 said that they created a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for medical costs that were not covered by the company's health insurance. The employee then shared the GoFundMe on social media, but was subsequently given a warning and called into the head office and told to take it down because of concerns that the post might hurt both the show's and Ellen's image. You would think that if they found out an employee needed their medical costs covered, they would offer to help, considering they couldn't afford the medical costs based on their insurance or salary. But according to this employee, they never offered and instead got angry. To add insult to injury, employee number 2 was then fired after they posted a selfie laughing with coworkers at the office, which was a violation of their contract. However, other employees had posted similar selfies in the past. Employee number 3 said that after a very difficult year, where they had to take 3 unexpected chunks of time off due to a medical leave from a car accident, working remotely because of a family member's funeral, and they took 3 days off for another family's funeral, and they said that every time they asked to get time off, it was a struggle to get approval from supervisors and HR. Employee number 4 said she walked off the job after being constantly berated about her race and after she made efforts to improve the workplace dynamic for people of color. The former employee is a black woman who says that she experienced racist comments, actions, and microaggressions while she worked for the show for a year and a half. She said that a senior level producer said to her, "Oh wow, you both have box braids. I hope we don't get you confused." And at a work party, she said one of the main writers told her, "I'm sorry, I only know the names of the white people who work here." Other coworkers awkwardly laughed it off instead of coming to her defense. This employee said that when she tried to speak up about the lack of racial representation on the show, her colleagues called her the quote "PC police." Not only that, but her colleagues distanced themselves from her. After working for the show for a year, she asked for a raise after finding out a new hire made double what she did for doing the same job, even though she had 10 years of experience in the industry. Her manager never gave her a raise. In fact, she was reprimanded. She was called into a meeting with executive producer Ed Glavin, who criticized her for suggesting employees on the show get diversity and inclusion training, and also for asking for a raise. It was after this meeting that she walked off the job, and not only that, she left the entertainment industry altogether. It wasn't until recently, when she had seen the cultural discussions around race issues in Hollywood and workplaces, did she feel compelled to come forward. She added that following the Black Lives Matter movement, her former manager at the Ellen Show reached out to her to apologize for not being a better ally, but she said too little too late. Apparently, managers would also tell employees they couldn't talk to Ellen directly if they saw her at work. One has to wonder if it was Ellen telling them to say that, or I feel like it's a little bit of both. To sum things up, these former employees felt their workplace was toxic, where they couldn't speak up about problems, and if you do speak up, your contract wouldn't be renewed. Other people defended the show, saying that it's a typical set environment, but there appears to be a divide between the people on the show that are well liked by producers and people who believe the culture is toxic. An employee said that the show hires inexperienced people who just don't know better, who are willing to put up with it, and because, it's the Ellen Show, an Emmy award-winning NBC show that is loved by viewers. The employees that are well liked liked say that producers and managers would give them gifts like new iPhones, gift cards, and other freebies. So, is the treatment of the employees of the show Ellen's responsibility? Well, some are arguing yes. Here's a quote. "If she wants to have her own show and have her name on the show title, she needs to be more involved to see what is going on," one former employee said. "I think the executive producers surround her and tell her things are going great, everybody's happy, and she just believes that, but it's her responsibility to go beyond that." Another quote addressing the rumors about Ellen being mean said this: "People focus on rumors about how Ellen is mean and everything like that, but that's not the problem. The issue is these 3 executive producers running the show who are in charge of all the people, and who make the culture and are putting out this feeling of bullying and being mean," another former employee claimed. "They feel that everybody who works at the Ellen show is lucky to work there. So if you have a problem, you should leave, because we'll hire someone else, because everybody wants to work here." Here is what executive producers of the Ellen show had to say about this article. "Over the course of nearly 2 decades, 3,000 episodes, and employing over 1,000 staff members, we have strived to create an open, safe, and inclusive work environment. We are truly heartbroken and sorry to learn that even one person in our production family has had a negative experience. It's not who we are and who we strive to be, and not the mission Ellen has set for us. For the record, the day-to-day responsibility of the Ellen show is completely on us. We take all of this very seriously, and we realize, as many in the world are learning, that we need to do better and are committed to do better, and we will do better. I can tell you, as someone who has worked on production as talent, it is always a wonderful experience and it's a privilege to be there. But it's the people who work behind the scenes that make the show happen and are rarely given credit for their work. They're often overworked, underpaid, and disgruntled. Being on the set of a huge TV show like Ellen is a privilege, yeah, but like any other workplace, you should be able to go to your superiors when you have valid issues and complaints related to the job. I hope that when you guys turn on Netflix, you not only respect the artistic value of the show and the actors, but also all the work that gets put in by the people behind the scenes. A production is the definition of a team effort and collaboration. Hundreds, if not thousands of people work long hours in order to get those perfect shots so you can be entertained at home or at the movie theater. Those employees deserve respect, they deserve to be treated fairly, and Ellen's mantra, "be kind," should be extended to them as well. And with that being said, shout out to our amazing editing team, all the bosses behind the scenes at IO, and of course our producer Chris. Woo. Thanks Chris! You guys killing it! The Ellen DeGeneres show is under internal investigation by Warner Brothers after multiple complaints of a toxic workplace. This investigation comes just after BuzzFeed published a bombshell article where multiple employees came forward to expose the Ellen DeGeneres show. Could this mean the end of the show as we know it? Find out right now on IO. What's gravy fam, this is IO, I'm Charlotte. On this channel we do the news, we make it entertaining, so subscribe for spicy trending news updates and top 10 lists, and follow the IO team on social media. The Ellen DeGeneres show, a long-time daytime talk show that has been a favorite on television, is in trouble. According to The Hollywood Reporter and Variety, an internal memo was sent out to employees of the Ellen DeGeneres show last week, where Warner Brothers would be interviewing former and current employees of the show about their experiences on set. The interviews will be conducted by a third-party firm, as well as Warner Media's employee relations group. Not sure if you guys have seen my previous video on this, but a couple of weeks ago, BuzzFeed published an article about the toxic workplace environment behind the scenes at the Ellen show. Employees, both current and former, claimed in this article that they could be fired for taking time off for medical reasons and funerals. Another employee who wanted to improve the workplace environment for people of color said she experienced microaggressions from the management team. Essentially, for behind-the-scenes crew members and staff, the Ellen DeGeneres show was often toxic and hostile. Nothing like the show's mantra, which if you don't remember is "be kind." If you're interested in hearing that full story, I will leave a link to the last video I did on this story down below in the comments for you. It should be noted that Ellen DeGeneres herself wasn't accused of misconduct in this article. None of the employees and former employees that were interviewed mentioned much about her, apart from one employee who said that executive producers would constantly tell her that things were going great and everybody was happy. They added that it's her name on the show though, so she should be held accountable for how the employees are treated. This also isn't the first time that the employees of the show have spoken out about unfair treatment. Earlier in April, crew members that had been with the show for years came forward to say that they were not hired to help with the at-home version of the Ellen DeGeneres show, and instead the show hired non-union workers. Workers were not informed by higher-ups. In fact, they found out about the show taping remotely via social media posts from colleagues in other departments. In addition, the core crew, consisting of over 30 members, got no written communication about the status of their work hours, pay, and there was no attempt made into finding out the well-being waiting of them from producers for over a month. Management would occasionally answer phone calls, but not much was said about the fate of their jobs when asked. And there was an entire 2-week blackout where they literally heard nothing. When crew members were finally contacted, they were told to expect a 60% pay cut, even while the show continued to air and was filmed remotely from Ellen's home. At the time, a Warner Brothers spokesperson said that communication could have been better, but said that there were complications due to the chaos of the pandemic. I can totally understand how hard it must be for productions to figure out how to navigate these challenging times. Film crews have to jump through so many hoops just to film a commercial these days. I can't imagine what it's like to film a whole TV show. It is still unfortunate that they couldn't have hired the crew members that have been working with them for years. Ellen has not actually responded to the accusations publicly, but does all of this mean that this could be the end for the Ellen DeGeneres show? Well, the show has actually been experiencing really low ratings during the pandemic, as opposed to other talk shows like The Daily Show with Trevor Noah that actually haven't noticed a change. The Ellen DeGeneres show relies heavily on a studio audience. Without that audience and it's just Ellen in her mansion, it's just not the same. It also doesn't help that in recent months the entire brand of the show, including Ellen's brand of being one of the nicest people in the world, has been called into question. Multiple allegations of toxic behavior behind the scenes, as well as Ellen herself not being very nice, are likely helping the show's ratings. It's clear the mantra of the Ellen DeGeneres show, "Be kind," is not what Ellen or the show's executives and managers live by, which frankly is kinda like finding out that Santa Claus isn't real. A radio host who worked with Ellen DeGeneres back in 2013 has spoken out about the strange set of rules he was given and how he was supposed to behave while he was around Ellen. I got the tea and I'm gonna spill it here for you on IO. What's gravy, fam jam? This is InformOverload. I'm Charlotte. Subscribe for the spiciest trending news updates on YouTube and follow the IO team on social media. Neil Breen is a radio show host who runs 4BC Breakfast in Australia. He also worked as an executive producer on the Today Show in Australia back in 2013. During his time working on the Today Show, he was part of a team that interviewed Ellen DeGeneres in Melbourne. He claims that there were some strange conditions for working for Ellen. Firstly, he and his crew had to fly out of Melbourne at their expense to tape the interview. He said, I quote, "Originally she was going to co-host the Today Show, and then she was going to do this, then she was going to do that, and the whole thing got watered down to Ellen DeGeneres would do a sit-down interview. Because it's the Ellen Show, they controlled everything. They controlled the interview seats, the lights, how it would work, everything. The producers called us aside and said, okay, this is how it's going to work here this morning. Ellen's going to arrive at 10:15, and she'll be sitting in this chair here. And Richard, you'll be sitting in this chair here. Neil, no one's to talk to Ellen. So you don't talk to her, you don't approach her, you don't look at her. She'll come in, she'll sit down, she'll talk to Richard, and Ellen will leave. I found the whole thing bizarre." He said that with every word Ellen DeGeneres said, her team would giggle and laugh. So much so that he had to tell them to be quiet since they were taping an interview. I'm not blaming Ellen because I didn't get to talk to her because I wasn't allowed to, so I don't know whether she's a nice person or not. I wouldn't have a clue, but I can tell you the people who worked around her walked on eggshells the whole time. Honestly, as someone who has worked on set and someone who knows people in the industry who work behind the scenes with huge celebrities, it's really not uncommon for celebrities to request that they not be spoken to by anyone. I can understand if it's someone who was like, let's say, a method actor, someone who needs to be in the zone and focus before they film a big scene and they don't want to be bothered by, let's say, background actors, because you know that's kind of a thing. You're on the set of a big TV show as a background actor and you're really close to these celebrities, you want to get like selfies with them and stuff, and you're so close that you can actually see how much makeup they wear when they're shooting. Kiefer Sutherland. Sorry, what was that in my throat? It really doesn't surprise me that Ellen doesn't want to be spoken to by the little people, as they call them. That's kinda just how it works. Not saying it's right, but I'm just telling you, Ellen isn't the only celebrity that makes these kind of demands. I used to take a lot of photos of famous DJs, and I can tell you that Tiesto, for example, wouldn't allow photographers to photograph him from up close, and we were only allowed to take photos for the first 5 minutes of his set. That kind of limited the amount of photos, whether they were good or bad. I think maybe that might have had something to do with he was getting a little bit older and he didn't want there to be unflattering photos of himself. Beyonce also makes sure that there's only specific photos of her that get released. Her team makes it so that only photos approved by her and her team will make it into tabloids and news articles. To a certain extent, I get it. I feel like when you get to be a huge celebrity like that, you can make these kinds of demands. You have like a lot of power. But it's still interesting to find out how far some celebrities go and what specific demands they make. I feel like we can make a top 10 about that. How do you guys feel about that? Do you have any experiences with celebrities making weird demands? Do you think celebrities should be able to make weird demands? Would you make weird demands if you were a celebrity? I would order M&Ms and have all the brown ones picked out, because they look like poop. Tell me a weird demand that you would make if you were a celebrity on your rider. BuzzFeed has published another expose about the toxic work environment at The Ellen Show. Only this time, dozens of former employees are accusing executive producers of, quote, rampant sexual misconduct and harassment. I got the tea, it's piping hot, so this tea is best sipped slowly. What's gravy, fam? This is InformOverload. I'm Charlotte Del Rey, professional shit talker and potato queen. Subscribe for the spiciest trending news updates on YouTube and follow the IO team on social media. I'm gonna talk really fast because my Uber Eats is coming and I need to eat my sushi because I'm hungry. Before I go any further, I just wanted to give full credit to Christy Lee Yandoli, the journalist that broke the story via BuzzFeed News. This is the same journalist who broke the last story about the Ellen Show's toxic work environment. If you haven't seen my video on that, I will leave a link at the top of the screen for you. Now, dozens of other employees have come forward with even more shocking claims about the Ellen Show's executive producers. This is YouTube, so I gotta paraphrase or act it out so most of you will know what I'm talking about without actually saying it. Maybe the kiddos won't. Let's start with Kevin Lehman, who is the head writer and executive producer of The Ellen Show. According to one former employee, Kevin asked him if he was going to give him a, quote, or at a company party in 2013. A different employee said they saw Lehman grab a male employee down there. A third former staffer said that she saw Lehman grope a production assistant in a car and kiss his neck. Close to 12 former employees who had various job titles like production assistants and senior employees said that Kevin Lehman would commonly make sexually explicit comments in the office, comments not appropriate for the workplace. Things like, are you a top or a bottom? Or he would talk about how well endowed certain employees were. The comments were reportedly masked in sarcasm, but the people he would make these jokes to were younger people or people at the bottom of the Ellen Show food chain who were less likely to speak up. He'd probably do it in front of 10 people and they'd laugh because it's Kevin being Kevin, but if you're in a position of power at a company, you don't get to touch me like that, a former employee said. Kevin Lehman has actually responded to the BuzzFeed article and the former employees in a statement where he denied any kind of sexual misconduct. I started at the Ellen Show as a PA more than 17 years ago, and I've devoted my career to work my way to the position I now hold. While my job as head writer is to come up with jokes, and during that process we can occasionally push the envelope, I'm horrified that some of my attempts at humor may have caused offense. I've always aimed to treat everyone on the staff with kindness, inclusivity, and respect. In my whole time on the show, to my knowledge, I've never had a single HR or interpersonal complaint made about me, and I'm devastated beyond belief that this kind of malicious and misleading article could be published. In addition to Kevin Lehman, executive producer Ed Glavin was also called out by 5 former employees who said that Ed made them uncomfortable by rubbing their shoulders and backs, as well as placing his hand on their lower waists. In other words, these employees say that Ed is a little bit handsy with women, particularly in places like the control room, and was a manager who used fear and intimidation to keep control. You could definitely see the creep factor and the creepy touching. That was out in the open for everybody to see. One former employee who said Glavin regularly touched her in the control room told BuzzFeed News. Obviously, no one wants that, and no one wants to be uncomfortably touched by someone, but you didn't want to piss them off or you would be fired, so it was just that culture of fear. According to another former staffer, Glavin was apparently extremely comfortable with his handsiness. So comfortable in fact that he would do it in front of 30 other people in the control room. They alleged that Glavin would call over producers and assistants to sit near him while the show was filming segments they had worked on, and in front of close to 30 people he would touch them inappropriately. Even though I was being at work constantly. Ed putting his arm around you in the control room was like the nicest experience you had all day, as messed up as that sounds. But you had been crying last night and now your segment is going well, and then you feel like you got credit for something from the executive producer directly. That friendly banter accompanied by a friendly hand. Ed Glavin has not responded to requests for comments. The last executive producer that was called out in this article was Jonathan Norman, where a former staffer accused him of grooming him over a period of time. He was taken to concerts, given perks, and then one night attempted to perform oral on him. The former employee's story was backed up by 3 others who say that they were told about the incident at the time and they have talked about it since then. Here was Jonathan Norman's response. I have never had a single complaint against me in my career. I have never groomed anyone. I've never done anything to harm another staff member, ever. The person I believe you are referring to has ulterior motives for bringing down the show and has been acting with malice towards the show. Ellen apparently has actually apologized to staff in a memo sent out last Thursday that was obtained by BuzzFeed News. The memo said that from its inception, the show was supposed to be a place of happiness where everyone was treated with respect. Obviously, something changed, and I'm disappointed to learn that this has not been the case, and for that I'm sorry. Anyone who knows me knows it's the opposite of what I believe and what I'd hope for our show. Ellen took responsibility since her name was on the show and added, as we've grown exponentially, I've not been able to stay on top of everything and relied on others to do their jobs as they knew I'd want them done. Clearly some didn't. That will now change, and I'm committed to ensuring this does not happen again. Some former staffers do not believe it's possible that Ellen had no idea that this kind of thing was happening on her show. At the very least, she must have heard rumors rumors because she spent a lot of time with these executive producers. Another employee said that Ellen does know, but she doesn't want to hear about it. Others said that she actually doesn't spend enough time in the office or talking to the staff to really know what's going on, and she could just be in this bubble where she doesn't know what's happening fully behind the scenes. At this time, 47 former employees in total have come forward to accuse the show of various indiscretions. From racism in the workplace to a toxic work environment and now sexual misconduct, it's clear that the Ellen Show is in some serious trouble. Some of you guys might be hearing these claims and you're like, well, why didn't these employees report their problems to HR? Well, according to some of these employees, there was no actual formal process to confidentially file complaints. As in, if you complained, everyone would know about it and you could face repercussions or lose your job. Staff were also pressured not to go to HR by the executive producers. It is interesting though that some of these executive producers say that they have never had a formal complaint made about them as proof that nothing dubious went on behind the scenes. But again, innocent until proven guilty. I hope these former staffers do file legal recourse for their claims and some justice is served, though as someone who came up in the industry and had to deal with powerful people making me uncomfortable, these types of things are very hard to prove. They happen very often, but they definitely change your perspective about working in the entertainment industry. Social media users are calling out Ellen again, but this time it's over a resurfaced video where Ellen shamed an audience member for stealing. It's not that simple though. Ellen set up a social experiment where she put out a bunch of free merch on a table to see if her audience members would take more than one item after they were told not to take more than one item. She then shamed the audience member for taking more than one item on national television. At the time, the joke seemed like, it's good fun, it's Ellen, she's just joking around. But now that Ellen's on-screen persona is being called into question, people are calling this social experiment just plain mean. What's gravy, fam jam? This is InformOverload. I'm Charlotte. On this channel we do the news, we make it entertaining, so if you're sick of the same old news cycle, hit that subscribe and notification bell and follow the IO gang on our socials. Being an audience member on Ellen used to be a coveted experience. Ellen had the reputation for being an extremely positive person who always preached be kind. It was also not uncommon for audience members to get freebies or win prizes on camera if they were on the show. But now that the Ellen DeGeneres show is facing accusations of a toxic workplace, rampant sexual harassment, and Ellen herself is being exposed for being not so nice to the little people, people are going through all her past encounters and looking at them with a new perspective. There was this one particular incident which is now being looked at with new eyes, where an audience member named Nancy was publicly shamed by Ellen on national television for taking one too many freebies. The original clip actually ended up being deleted from Ellen's YouTube channel, at least as far as I know. I tried to look it up so that I could at least show you guys, but it's gone. So that gives you an idea for how bad this is. I'll just explain to you what happened. Ellen set up a test to quote, see how honest the audience was. She put out a bunch of free Ellen merch, just like a bunch of plastic stuff, like hats that probably cost like a cent to make. And then she told audience members that they could take one item each for free. The team set up hidden cameras everywhere, as well as a two-way mirror right in front of the table with free stuff on it. And when it came time to tape the show, Ellen said she wanted to see if she could catch anyone stealing, in her words. Which is like, I'm sorry, if you put out a bunch of plastic freebies with no attendant, people are gonna take more than one. Like, they are, that's just wait, just me? It turns out that Nancy was the only person in the entire audience who ended up taking more than one freebie. She took two. She took an extra piece of swag for her sister who couldn't be there for the taping. Anyways, the whole thing was caught on camera, and then Ellen spent a good few minutes accusing this audience member of stealing. Now, based on what I saw from the social experiment, Nancy was a good sport about it. You could tell she was a bit embarrassed. She was on national television. She might have felt like crying, and she might have cried after the taping, but she couldn't have done it like on camera. As she's being grilled by Ellen, Nancy explains that she only took an extra gift for her sister who loves Ellen and couldn't come to the taping, and Ellen says in response, a lot of people's sisters couldn't come. Ellen continues, you are one of those people who go trick-or-treating and take the whole bowl. Wait, no one else did that? I'm just kidding. So then Ellen sends Nancy to Ellen jail. It's a bit silly to be honest, but a lot of people felt like this little experiment was a bit harsh, frankly, and borderline bullying. Like I said, the video was deleted from Ellen's channel as far as I know, but here were some comments posted to the What's Trending news video about it. Wow, that's gross. So basically she set this entire thing up just so she'd find someone that stole, just so she could publicly humiliate and bully them while she sadistically smiles. This is sadism. She's happy she orchestrated this entire thing. It's gross. Such a garbage person. Next, so the person who always talks about happiness and positivity is now shaming and humiliating a fan for stealing a $10 hat. It was probably not $10 actually. It was probably it was free. Like it doesn't cost much. Next, imagine this woman coming back to her home, her family giggling, and her trying to get a job. The boss might think she's going to steal. Her life is kinda messed up now. Thanks a lot, Ellen. Next, and lastly, I feel really bad for Nancy. Ellen couldn't have just told her in private instead of telling the whole entire audience, making Nancy feel embarrassed. Also, I don't think it's stealing if the merch was free, and Nancy was just a big fan of Ellen, which is why she wanted more than one of the things that were free. Anyways guys, I want you to tell me how you feel about this one. Was the joke not really a big deal, or was Ellen too harsh on this audience member? Let me know. A former camera assistant who worked on the Ellen DeGeneres show has spoken out about what it's like to work behind the scenes with Ellen. And she said it's basically like The Devil Wears Prada. I love me some Meryl Streep as Miranda Priestley, but I sure as hell don't want to work for her. What's gravy, y'all? This is InformOverload. I'm Charlotte, serving you spicy trending news updates since 2015. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you like this video, you'll love the playlist. It's clickable at the top of your screen. Should we make an Ellen is Mean playlist? I feel like we've done so many videos on Ellen at this point, like we kinda need it. In the midst of the Ellen show being under investigation by Warner Media, more and more of Ellen DeGeneres' former staffers have spoken out about their experience working on the show. They just keep coming out of the woodwork. I will let you guys know that most of the people who've chosen to speak out against Ellen have done so anonymously, with the exception of a former DJ and a former producer. Working on set is kinda like this thing where like you gotta be grateful that you're even there, because so many people would rather be in your position, but you put up with a lot in certain circumstances. What's worse about it is you can't really speak out about your treatment, because once word gets out that you've done so, other crews are less likely to hire you. But as always, you should take these accusations with a grain of salt. They are anonymous. How many of you have ever seen or read The Devil Wears Prada? Leave a like if you have. The Devil Wears Prada is a story about a mean fashion magazine editor rumored to be Anna Wintour, aka editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine. The story follows an assistant who gets a job at the fashion magazine and has to navigate the harsh landscape of the fashion world, while also having a cruel boss, played by Meryl Streep in the movie. It was honestly a great movie, one of my favorite roles Meryl Streep has ever played. She brought a lot of humor to the part. Yeah, no, she was amazing. But although watching The Devil Wears Prada on screen is comedic, living through it wouldn't be funny at all. A woman who claims she used to work as a camera assistant on The Ellen Show has compared her year working there to The Devil Wears Prada. She spoke to the Australian radio show Stab, Abby and Matt on B105 and said, "I worked there for a little over a year. It's kinda like The Devil Wears Prada. Everyone is trying to make it to the year." She says that making it through a year on The Ellen Show was like a badge of honor to have on your resume, claiming that Ellen staff members were expected to work 10-hour shifts. To be honest, on a union set, it's not uncommon to work 10-hour shifts or even 12-hour shifts. You essentially stay until you've completed the shot list. But union set workers, most of the time, are paid well. They got overtime. There are certain rules the union makes you follow, like if you work too late on one night, you have to show up later the next day so that you get enough time to sleep. But apparently there's some rules that the Ellen Show doesn't abide by, at least according to this former staffer. The former camera assistant said, "It's about certain basic rights, like you're asking to be paid your overtime, or you're asking for water on a hot day on a hot set, and you're being told things like, if you don't like it here, there's the door. You're constantly told there's a line out the door for your job, and if you don't like it here, you can leave." Not sure what union sets in the US are like, but on Canadian union sets, you do get breaks, you get overtime, you got craft running around with snacks and water like every hour or 2 hours, and if you want water or a snack between takes, you can grab some off the craft truck. There is a reason why there are unions for performers and crew. Without them, productions can basically do anything to their employees and pay them whatever they want. Unions are there to protect staff members from this kind of treatment. So if what this former staffer says is true, then that's disappointing to say the least, and maybe The Ellen Show is breaking a few of the union's rules. One last quote I would like to share with you guys is a response this camera assistant had to all the celebrities coming to Ellen's defense. She said it was disappointing that people aren't believing the employees that are coming forward with negative experiences. People like Ashton Kutcher and Katy Perry have no idea what it's like to be an Ellen staffer, and it's really unfair that they say things like, "She treated me with respect. I was not treated in any way similar to how Ashton Kutcher was treated on the show." Adding, "I wasn't even allowed in the same room as DeGeneres. Most people are told when Ellen enters the room, you and your entire crew need to leave. Sometimes her bodyguards come forward first, and you kinda see them, and you know to leave, and that's it." Warner Brothers has announced that 3 of the top executive producers at The Ellen Show have been fired. This is following an internal investigation by Warner Brothers due to complaints made by the show's staff, alleging the workplace was a toxic environment, and along with that, much more serious allegations. I guess this means that there really was a lot of shady stuff going on behind the scenes at The Ellen Show. Hey there, guys! What's up? You're watching I.O. I'm Charlotte. Subscribe for spicy trending news updates. Turn on the bell so you're the first to know what's trending, and check out the playlist at the top of the screen if you want to see more stories like this. The Ellen DeGeneres Show was a daytime talk show favorite. It has won over 60 Emmy Awards since its inception in 2003. But what we all saw on our screens was not an accurate representation of what the Ellen DeGeneres Show was really like for its employees. It wasn't all dancing in bright colors and rainbows and sunshine. Speaking of BuzzFeed news, over the last few weeks, the Ellen DeGeneres show has come under fire after dozens of employees came forward with complaints of a toxic work environment, racism on set, a culture of fear, and worst of all, rampant sexual misconduct. The allegations prompted Warner Media to announce that there would be an internal investigation into the show. The investigation, which looked into more than 100 people connected to the show, found that no systemic racism took place, but they did say that they did need to do more for diversity and inclusion. In terms of the exact specifics of the investigation and what was found out, no exact details were shared by Warner Brothers. But considering that 3 of the top executive producers were fired, I think we can all, figure out on our own. Ellen DeGeneres announced in a video conference meeting with staff on Monday that her show's 3 top executive producers, Ed Glavin, Kevin Lehman, and Jonathan Norman, have all been let go from their positions. Mary Connolly, Andy Lassner, and Derek Westervelt will remain at The Ellen Show with Ellen as executive producers. All 4 of them have been with the show since it began. Ellen also apologized to staff in a message saying that she was so sorry for what this has become. If you need a refresher on exactly what happened, Ed Glavin was accused by several people of not only managing the team with intimidation and fear, but also inappropriate touching. Got a little handsy. Ed Glavin has not responded to the accusations. Jonathan Norman and Kevin Lehman were also accused of sexual harassment. Lehman denied any sort of sexual impropriety and 100% denied the claims. As for Ellen herself, you could tell that she and her PR team were trying to make an effort to distance herself from all the claims, saying that she had no idea that this kind of thing was going on. She got all her celebrity friends to say nice things about her, etc, etc. But the fact of the matter is, a bunch of celebrities coming to your defense does not prove these allegations wrong. These experiences are that of employees, not famous celebrities. After initially distancing herself in a letter to staff, saying she had been misrepresented by the people who work with her and for her, she later apologized and said she was glad the issues were brought to her attention. During the video staff meeting, Ellen was emotional to the point of tears, apologetic to the 200 staffers she was addressing. She made several promises to staff, including ensuring leaders would be more sensitive to employees, the show would stick to shooting timetables and not shift them on short notice. She also vowed that everyone on staff would participate in workshops for diversity and inclusion, herself included, and once the pandemic has passed, she would meet personally with her staff in small groups. I guess this means that Ellen DeGeneres won't be replaced after all, and certainly not by James Corden. I gotta say, I'm happy that she eventually took responsibility, acknowledged that there needed to be changed, and she's making an effort to get to know her staff personally. At the end of the day, she's the face of the show, and being a celebrity does not absolve you from being a decent boss or a decent human being. After videos of Ellen DeGeneres making fun of Sofia Vergara's accent went viral last week, Sofia has spoken out in defense of Ellen, and I'm gonna tell you what she said right now on IO. What's gravy? This is InformOverload. I'm Charlotte. Subscribe for spicy trending news updates and top 10 lists, and follow the IO team on social media. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our new channel, Top 10 Central Dark. If you like some scary jump scares, you like some scary content, definitely check out that new channel. And I'm gonna leave a link in the description for you and in the comments so that you guys can go straight to the channel from this video. But not yet, I'm not done talking. Social media users are digging deep into the Ellen archive and finding old clips or tweets from Ellen that fit the narrative she's mean in real life. For example, last week an old tweet of Ellen saying that she made her employee cry went viral, fitting the narrative that she treats her employees badly. In case you haven't heard, 3 of the top producers at the Ellen Show have been let go following reports from dozens of employees who say that they were subjected to a toxic workplace and sexual harassment. This tweet is from way back in 2009, and here it is. I made one of my employees cry like a baby on today's show. Honestly, it felt good. I saw this tweet going viral for all the wrong reasons. Like, lots of people were reposting it and saying things like, oh my god, Ellen's such a monster, based on this tweet. And truth be told, I didn't report on it because I could tell just by looking at it that this tweet meant that Ellen made her employee cry tears of joy, not like made her cry with harassment or something like that. I don't always jump on the hate Ellen bandwagon. I definitely wait until there's actually decent evidence to be able to do that. You can't look at that tweet and automatically think that she's like publicly saying that she's bullying her employee, right? Like, I don't know, it just seemed really dumb to me that this even picked up traction. Upon further investigation, news outlets found out that the tweet was in reference to a segment where Ellen surprised one of her longtime employees, Jeannie Kleisowitz, with a cruise. Additionally, old clips of Ellen DeGeneres making fun of Sofia Vergara's thick Colombian accent and English resurfaced. Once this clip went viral, it seems like people were looking at the footage with new eyes. Some went as far as to accuse Ellen of being racist towards Sofia, and Sofia herself has now responded to the claims that Ellen was mean to her in the following tweet. 2 comedians having fun with each other to entertain. I was never a victim, guys. I was always in on the joke. The response to Sofia's tweet was somewhat mixed. People argued that things like accents shouldn't be mocked. I don't know though, Sofia, watching that montage of all the times Ellen mocked or made fun of your accent really bothered me. It's not okay to mock how people speak or their accents, even in fun. Once, yes, you're in on the joke, but continually, not okay. Next, definitely, problem is most immigrants subject to this kind of treatment are not comedians, they are mocked and disrespected. So the question is, when the joke turns into discrimination, careful with crossing the line. Next, so you're excusing the insensitive behavior because she's a comedian. WTF is wrong with you friggin' celebrities. She was mocking the Spanish accent, she's a bully, period. I work on the WB lot and her nasty behavior is a known fact. I love Ellen's personality no matter what people say. I first started watching her from Johnny Carson's show. I love that she has made it through some very tough times and she will get through this as well. Haters need to stop. So truth be told, it is entirely possible that if you have an accent, you could have been offended by Ellen making fun of Sofia's accent. It does get annoying when someone makes fun of your accent like over and over. Speaking from experience, going to school in the States, I was made fun of for my Canadian accent. Every time I said a or certain words like about, people in my class would make fun of me, specifically one or two people in my class. After the 40th time, I got annoyed because it wasn't like in good fun anymore. It was like they were kind of like discriminating against me because I'm Canadian and I speak differently. But I'm torn because as a comedian that loves accents and mimicking accents for characters, there is a fine line between making fun of someone's accent and making light of someone's accent. Context and tone is everything. But with that being said, what do you guys think? Is making fun of someone's accent offensive? Do you think people are too sensitive? Do you think Ellen took things too far?
Mariah Carey sat down with Vulture magazine to speak about her new memoir, and the interviewer made sure to get all the tea on her whole Ellen interaction. With the internal investigation going on at the Ellen show, hearing what Mariah Carey has to say about her will certainly become a big part of this, and we have everything you need to know. Welcome back to InformOverload. I'm your host Johnny Rogers, and you're watching the #1 tea-spilling entertainment news show on the internet. Before we kick this video off though, if you want to see more about what your favorite celebrities are up to lately, just tap that playlist in the corner of your screen. Also, if you don't want to miss another daily video from us, make sure you click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Now, without further delay, let's get right into today's story. This is a story that I've spoken about quite a bit, especially over on Top 10 Beyond the Screen. We fully covered everything going on with Ellen. During an episode in 2008, Mariah Carey was on the show as a guest. Ellen got wind that Mariah may be pregnant, and I'm sure she was very excited for her. However, instead of just talking to Mariah like a friend and asking if this was something that she wanted to talk about, Ellen just sprung it on her in front of a live studio audience, and Lord knows how many people that were watching it at home. It became another prime example of a time where Ellen completely lacked any empathy. The worst part was that Mariah had already told Ellen's team that this conversation about her rumored pregnancy was entirely off limits. Yet regardless, Ellen had set her up in a trap that she couldn't get out of and forced her to address it. Well, kind of. Ellen wanted to be the first one to break this news story of Mariah's pregnancy, and to do so she brought out alcohol to force a confession. Now clearly if Mariah was pregnant, having any alcohol would be a terrible idea, but why does Ellen feel like she's in charge of this information? Despite all of Mariah's refusing to take part in Ellen's game, she was eventually backed into a corner. She then takes a small sip from that glass that prompts Ellen to start shouting that Mariah is pregnant. Now, typically this story would end with Mariah having a miscarriage just a few weeks later. However, believe it or not, it goes much deeper than that. Ever since the internal investigation into the Ellen show, this video has resurfaced multiple times, and Mariah Carey has finally addressed it. Mariah sat down with Vulture magazine to promote her new memoir called The Meaning of Mariah Carey, and in that conversation though, we learn much more about this interaction with Ellen. Mariah said during the interview that the reason she was hesitant to tell anyone that she was pregnant was due to her having a miscarriage in the past. Carey explained by saying, "I was extremely uncomfortable with that moment is all I can say, and I really have had a hard time grappling with the aftermath. I wasn't ready to tell anyone because I had had a miscarriage. I don't want to throw anyone that's already being thrown under the proverbial bus, but I didn't enjoy that moment." That was one of Mariah's main worries about writing this book, was that she didn't want to make it seem like she was capitalizing on another person's decline. That being said, this little bit about Ellen is going to make a lot of people want to buy this book just to see if she spills any more tea. Especially with everything going on with Ellen right now, having these celebrity accounts of dealing with her could become very important to the investigation. Carey went on to say that there is an empathy that can be applied to those moments that she wishes Ellen would have implemented. But ultimately she says to the interviewer that at that moment she genuinely just didn't know what to do. I believe that's what Ellen wants though. When you think about all the weird things that she has set up in that environment, I mean, her lower staff members are told not to make eye contact with her, the guests clearly don't speak to her until they're actually on the show. It's just so many hurdles set up to make everyone feel smaller than the lady with her name plastered everywhere. As if that wasn't enough. Time and time again though, we have situations where Ellen is not exactly helping her reputation. Despite Mariah not wanting to throw her under the bus, it was essential for her to speak openly about how this made her feel, especially considering the amount of celebrities that came running to Ellen's defense because they were convinced that they would lose that professional relationship, which is also a problem in Hollywood, you could say. Like, so many people in LA will turn a blind eye to what someone is doing if it means that they can help their career. I mean, look at how many people have photos with Harvey Weinstein, how many actors thanked him in their acceptance speeches. Meanwhile, he was one of the most vile men in the industry that did absolutely deplorable things to many women. Regardless, there were people who valued that professional relationship more than speaking out against a crime. This must have been very stressful for Mariah to write about even, but I think she has established herself enough in this world that she shouldn't really be concerned if there is a backlash from what she says. I mean, she could probably stop working right now and live off of her Christmas album royalties for another 200 years. I also want to leave this on a bit of a high note. Even though Mariah did miss Carey after this interview from hell, her and Nick Cannon would have twins together 3 years later, and they're happy and healthy. Well, except for Nick Cannon.
Ellen DeGeneres has just announced that she will be returning to her hit daytime show, and when her show comes back on, she's vowed to address all the things that have been said against her and her show. And I don't know about you guys, but I cannot wait to see that. Hey, what's up everyone, it's Mackenzie here, and today on the channel I'm going to be filling you in on the new update that the Ellen Show will be coming back, and what the reaction has been from fans and fellow celebrities. But before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our playlist of other news stories just like this one. So Ellen just announced that her show will be returning to season 18 on Monday, September 21st, with Ellen saying in a statement, quote, "I can't wait to get back to work and back to our studio, and yes, we're gonna be talking about it." And it, we can infer, is referring to all the backlash that's come out against her, accusing the show of being toxic with rampant racism and sex. And this is a shock to some, as there's been tons of speculation that Ellen wouldn't be returning to the show, and honestly, I didn't think that she would be coming back originally. Ellen also announced that the first guest she will be speaking with is Tiffany Haddish, and the pair will kick off the new season. Other guests that will be appearing on the show in the first few weeks are Carey Washington, Alec Baldwin, and Chrissy Teigen. Then later on in the month, DeGeneres plans to welcome Chris Rock, Amy Schumer, Adam Sandler, and Orlando Bloom. The show also announced that Ellen's beloved DJ, Steven Twitch Boss, who has been the DJ since 2014, will be guest hosting some episodes as well. But people are speculating that the fact that she'll be hosting less might actually mean she is gearing up to leave after this season ends, but you know, we don't really know, of course. In other updates, Warner Brothers confirmed that executive producers Ed Glavin and Kevin Lehman and co-executive producer Jonathan Norman have left the show and denied any wrongdoing before doing that. Ellen has also tried to get the support of her staff back by apologizing to them, with a Zoom meeting taking place on August 17th, where she explained her side of the story to her staff, with her revealing that she is introverted, and that distance made people misinterpret her as mean. Okay. Saying in an interview, quote, "Does that mean I'm perfect? No, I'm not. I'm a multi-layered person, and I try to be the best person I can be, and I try to learn from my mistakes." It was also reported that her staff was given a better benefits package, including more medical support, as that was an issue in the past. In light of all this, fellow TV host Steve Harvey made some comments about his thoughts on Ellen's return, saying that if it were him, he'd walk away. In an interview with ET, he said, quote, "Ellen has got a lot of money. If I was Ellen, I'd just walk away. She has enough. I wouldn't let them drag me down like that. I've never seen any sign of it. Not saying nothing ever happened over there, but I will say this, Ellen DeGeneres is point blank period one of the coolest people I've ever met." There's also of course been a ton of reactions on social media, with tons of people stating that this is proof that cancel culture is not real, with some even bringing up that if Ellen were a man, there was no way she'd be allowed to come back. Others were also questioning how the staff is feeling about all this, and if the staff were willingly coming back or if they had to find replacements for some people. Then people just saying that her show is boring as hell and they're shocked she's still on air, and honestly, I'm a little bit a part of that group, not gonna lie. So I guess that's all for the story as of now, but I am dying to know below, will you be watching? I've personally never actually watched Ellen's show before, but you bet I will be tuning in for this first episode to see how she, handles all this controversy. Like, I love that. Like, I watch every apology video, I watch every comeback. I watch all that because I'm just so fascinated to see, how they feel that they're gonna come back and, get the trust of their audience.